Prince. You met Prince.
Prince was a friend of mine.
Just a few words yet. Katt Williams' voice felt like a lit match thrown onto a mysterious bomb that had been ticking for nearly a decade. In 2016, the music world was stunned when Prince, a legend with an inimitable style and unmatched talent, suddenly collapsed at the age of 57. The official report claimed he died from a fentanyl overdose traced to a counterfeit Vicodin pill. But think about it. A man who spent his life on a macrobiotic diet, abstaining from alcohol and drugs, always keeping his body in peak condition, gone in such a way. That explanation never truly put the public at ease. Since then, conspiracy theories and unanswered questions have swirled, but no one has dared to state definitively what the truth is. Now Katt Williams, a friend close enough for Prince to call a kindred spirit, reveals that he holds insider information about this shocking death. Is this merely a coincidence? Or is the world about to hear a truth many don't want you to know? Stay with us, because what comes next could change the way you see Prince forever. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the moment the secret is unveiled. The journey from Minneapolis to immortal greatness. If the questions surrounding the mysterious death of Prince intrigue you, then before delving deep into the theories, let us rewind time to look back at the journey of a man who went beyond the limits of music to become a cultural symbol that lives on in the memories of millions. To understand why his departure shook the entire world, we must clearly understand who Prince was, what he accomplished, and why the legacy he left behind continues to shine even though nearly a decade has passed. Prince Rogers Nelson was born on June 7, 1958 in Minneapolis, into a family where music was the very breath of life. His father was a talented pianist, and his mother was an alluring jazz singer. From a young age, Prince showed his uniqueness, the ability to play an incredible number of instruments: guitar, keyboards, bass, drums, and more importantly, he could turn every sound into a story. A black boy in the Midwest of the United States with determined eyes and a desire to master his own music began his journey that way. At the age of 19, Prince signed a contract with Warner Brothers and released his debut album, For You, in 1978. What was remarkable was that in this album he wrote, arranged, produced, and played all the instruments himself. Just 1 year later, the album Prince was released, marking the beginning of an explosive streak of creativity that people would later say no artist could ever fully imitate. But it was not until 1984 that the world truly witnessed a seismic event named Prince. The album Purple Rain and the film of the same name were not only massive commercial successes, but also became cultural phenomena. Purple Rain held the #1 spot on the Billboard 200 for 24 consecutive weeks, sold more than 13 million copies in the US, and surpassed 25 million copies worldwide. At the same time, songs like When Doves Cry and Let's Go Crazy dominated the charts, while the Purple Rain single reached #2. That year, Prince became the first and only artist to simultaneously hold the #1 album, the #1 single, and the #1 movie in the US. What made Prince different was not just his record-breaking sales. Every one of his creations was an artistic statement breaking the boundaries between funk rock, R&B, and pop. On stage, he was the embodiment of an explosion. Flamboyant costumes, provocative moves, blazing guitar solos, and an unexplainable mystery. The Purple Rain tour lasted nearly a year, with close to 100 performances and more than 1.7 million tickets sold. Each night was a musical and visual feast. Throughout his career, Prince released a total of 39 studio albums and left behind more than 900 unreleased songs stored in the vault at Paisley Park. Total estimated sales range from 150 to over 100 million records, placing him among the best-selling artists of all time. He owned 7 Grammy Awards, 1 Oscar, a prominent place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and countless other accolades. But awards were never the end goal for Prince. He always pursued creative freedom. Because of that freedom, Prince once publicly battled with Warner Brothers. When his request to own his original masters was denied, he changed his stage name to an unpronounceable symbol and wrote the word slave on his face during performances as a reminder that artists are not slaves to contracts. He once planned to re-record his entire catalog to regain control, and was a pioneer in releasing music directly to fans through his own platform in the early 2000s, something many artists only dared to do later. Prince's influence went far beyond album sales or titles. He inspired major artists of the next generation, from Beyoncé, Alicia Keys, and Bruno Mars to Justin Timberlake and Rihanna. Not only did they learn from his music, but they also learned how he maintained full control over his creative direction and personal image. On April 21, 2016, Prince left this world at the age of 57, leaving behind a void that no one could ever fill. After his passing, the memoir, The Beautiful Ones, was released, revealing handwritten pages, lyrics, and never-before-published memories. Paisley Park, his home and recording studio, became a museum where fans can see the cymbal-shaped guitar, legendary stage outfits, and even the underground vault containing a treasure trove of never-heard music. Prince lived and created as if every day were a stage. He didn't just write music, he rewrote how the world sees an artist. And because of that, when people talk about Prince, they don't just remember a voice, a guitar, or a song, but a life wholly lived for art, an immortal legend. Now that we understand more clearly about the man and his legacy, the remaining question is, could the death of such an influential and courageous artist truly have been just an accident? Or are there secrets the world has never known? Let us continue this journey together to uncover the truths that may change everything you thought you knew. The secret bond between Katt Williams and Prince. Once we understand who Prince was and why he became a cultural icon, we begin to realize just how rare it was to be considered a true friend by him. Prince was a private individual, carefully choosing who could enter his personal world. Among the millions who had shaken his hand, taken photos, or exchanged words with him, only a small circle was granted his complete trust. Katt Williams, a comedian known for his sharp intelligence and truth-bomb humor, was one of the very few. This makes everything Katt has said about Prince carry a unique weight. Their connection began very early. When Katt was just 12 years old, he had the chance to meet Prince at a performance in Dayton, Ohio. For a child at that age, witnessing an artist like Prince, who had already started to draw worldwide attention for his unmatched style, was an unforgettable experience. But this was not just a fleeting fan moment. According to Katt, that encounter sparked a lifelong connection, one that went far beyond the typical boundary between a star and a fan. In the years that followed, Katt and Prince maintained their relationship, sharing things that only true friends could talk about. Katt shared that they spoke about lyrics, not just the words themselves, but the meanings and stories behind each line. They talked about cars, something both of them considered a form of mobile art. They also discussed women love and how to stay true to oneself in a world full of pressure. Katt once recalled something Prince told him, a line that stayed in his mind for years. "You can be a short, light-skinned man with long hair. As long as women love you, nobody gets to judge." At first glance, it might sound like a witty joke, but it was actually a powerful reminder to be confident in oneself and never let others impose their standards on you. It was a lesson in turning differences into strengths, something both Prince and Katt did successfully in their careers. In conversation, Katt also referred to Prince as a high-level thinker and someone who was always 30 steps ahead of the curve. This wasn't just empty praise, but Katt's way of describing Prince's ability to foresee trends, grasp situations, and act before anyone else even realized what was happening. For Prince, foresight wasn't luck. It was the result of sharp observation, experience, and an innate analytical mind. Moreover, Katt once revealed that he and Prince had helped each other in various aspects of work. Although he didn't go into details, it was clear there was enough trust between them to share sensitive matters. For someone like Prince, opening up and letting someone else share the professional pressures with him was an extremely rare occurrence. From this foundation, when Katt Williams hinted that he knew information about Prince's life and passing that had never been made public, the public immediately took notice. This wasn't just a comedian speaking to get laughs or attention. It was the voice of someone who had been close enough to hear and see things the public never would. In Katt's eyes, Prince was not only a musical legend, but also a human being, with thoughts, worries, and even premonitions about the future. This closeness makes every comment Katt makes about Prince feel like an insider's account. He doesn't speak of Prince as a public figure, but as a friend, a brother who had walked beside him through many stages of life. When Katt hints that there are things about Prince's death that have never been disclosed, it sparks public curiosity, not just because of the mystery, but because people understand that Katt might be one of the very few who ever heard Prince speak from the heart. The question is, could what Katt knows change the way the world views April 21, 2016? Could the memories and personal stories between these two friends hold clues that Prince had premonitions or warnings about what was to come? And if that's true, why has Katt waited until now to speak up? Those questions will only grow more urgent as we begin to examine Prince's final days, a time full of unusual details, unexplainable signs and puzzle pieces that, when put together, might paint a picture very different from the official narrative. And through the deep relationship between Katt Williams and Prince, the journey to uncover the truth gains a unique perspective. The perspective of someone who stood beside this legend not only when the stage lights were blazing, but also when the darkness began to fall. The strange circumstances surrounding Prince's death. On April 21, 2016, the news of Prince's passing at Paisley Park, at the age of 57, shocked the entire world. The official statement said he died from a fentanyl overdose, a synthetic opioid dozens of times stronger than morphine, which he had allegedly consumed accidentally through counterfeit Vicodin laced with the drug. But for someone known for a healthy lifestyle macrobiotic diet, no alcohol, no drugs, and a strict workout regimen, this explanation immediately sparked a wave of suspicion. Those who knew Prince, including longtime colleagues, all asked the same question: how could a body so meticulously cared for collapse from a fake pill? In the weeks leading up to his death, Prince showed unusual signs. He canceled several performances, made an emergency landing in Moline, Illinois, and was treated with an opioid antidote, a sign he had just experienced an overdose incident. What was baffling was that after this episode, Prince was not kept under close medical supervision despite a packed schedule and major shows ahead. For a superstar of his caliber, any tour management company would prioritize the artist's health, yet in this case, everything unfolded as though no one was taking responsibility for ensuring his safety. There was another chilling detail: Prince was found unconscious in the elevator at Paisley Park, the very place he had once referred to as the devil in a private conversation, and mentioned in the song "Let's Go Crazy" with the line, "Don't let the elevator bring us down." For those who believe in the connection between art and life, this coincidence sends shivers down the spine. Not only that, before his death, Prince left behind a series of cryptic messages. On Instagram, he posted a photo with the caption, "Just when you thought you were safe." At a party in Paisley Park just days before he died, he told guests, "Wait a few days before wasting any prayers." These kinds of statements in Prince's famously cryptic style are now being viewed as possible foreshadowing of something to come. Some theories also focus on Prince's public remarks about chemtrails aircraft trails that some believe are linked to covert government operations. In one interview, he spoke about noticing these trails since childhood and associating them with rising tension and division in communities. As someone unafraid to speak on controversial topics, many believe he may have attracted unwanted attention from powerful forces. Added to this was the strange isolation in the final days of his life. On the morning of his death, Paisley Park had no bodyguards or assistants present. For an internationally renowned artist, living completely alone in such a vast estate was highly unusual, especially when his health was showing signs of decline. All these elements, the contradiction between his lifestyle and cause of death, the ignored health warnings, the eerie coincidences, and the cryptic messages, have created a picture full of gaps. These blank spaces make it hard for people to simply accept the official narrative. And with Katt Williams' hints, it feels as though there may still be a crucial missing piece that could change how we view the day Prince left this world. If we are to find the answer, we must look deeper into the connections, conflicts, and silent battles Prince faced, especially his battle with the music industry, where he was not only an artist, but a warrior fighting for creative freedom. And that is the story of the next chapter. Conspiracy theories, when the story goes beyond music. From the very first hours after news broke of Prince's death, a wave of suspicion spread rapidly. The questions didn't stop at his health or the circumstances of his passing. Dozens of details from his life and career began to be connected, forming complex theories, many of which reached far beyond the realm of music, touching on sensitive issues of power, economics, and personal freedom. One of the most frequently mentioned elements is the fact that Prince once publicly spoke out about chemtrails, the phenomenon of airplane trails that some theories claim are linked to environmental or population control programs. In an interview, he recounted childhood memories of seeing thick white trails in the sky and noticed that soon after communities would become more tense and conflicted. The fact that an artist of Prince's stature dared to bring such a sensitive topic into the public eye led many to believe he had placed himself in the crosshairs of powerful forces. In addition, there are factors that lead observers to lean toward the theory that Prince had been targeted due to his very public battles with the music industry. His long-standing conflict with Warner Brothers, where he fought to reclaim ownership of all his master recordings, is a clear example. Prince once changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol and wrote the word slave on his face to protest artists being shackled by contracts. He openly declared he would re-record his entire catalog to regain control, a move that directly threatened the massive profits of the record label. That he succeeded in regaining ownership shortly before his death only deepened the suspicions of those who believe financial power in the industry might have had a hand in determining the fate of even a world-class artist. Furthermore, Prince was fiercely committed to maintaining maximum control over his career. He refused to let his music appear on many digital platforms, tightly managed the use of his image and performances. At a time when the industry was shifting rapidly toward digitalization, these actions not only defied prevailing trends, but also limited tech and entertainment corporations' access to his musical legacy. This has led some to believe he was interfering with the interests of too many powerful entities at once. Moreover, pop culture itself adds strange pieces to the puzzle. In a special episode of The Simpsons, a character clearly modeled after Prince called Purple One is ordered eliminated by the government. That detail, coupled with his real-life death, has been seen by conspiracy believers as a hidden prophecy. The isolation surrounding Prince's final days is also a striking point. At Paisley Park, his residence and creative complex, there were no bodyguards or assistants present that morning. For an international artist who had just experienced a serious health scare weeks earlier, this is difficult to understand. Some suggest it was a rare coincidence. Others see it as the perfect condition for an orchestrated scenario to unfold. All these details, when pieced together, form a narrative that convinces many people Prince's death was not simply an accident. To them, this is the story of an artist who always fought for creative freedom, who wasn't afraid to touch taboo subjects and challenge powerful systems, and who may have paid the ultimate price for doing so. While no conclusive evidence exists to confirm these theories, their very presence and spread reveal one thing in the public's eyes: Prince is not just a music legend, but a symbol of defiance, a man unafraid to stand against an entire system if necessary. And that's why every missing piece in his story only drives people to keep searching for the truth. The battle with the music industry. To understand why Prince is considered one of the most difficult artists in the eyes of the music industry, we must look back at a long journey in which he stood not only on stage as a performer, but also behind the scenes as a warrior. This is not a story about simple contracts. It's a fight for the right to control the fate of one's own art, a battle Prince was willing to wage at the cost of his fame, profits, and even relationships with an entire system of power. From the moment he signed with Warner Brothers at age 19, Prince demonstrated his difference. He demanded full creative control over his debut album, something rare for a newcomer, and retained the rights to publish his own songs. But it was Warner Brothers, after reaping enormous profits from his success, that became his biggest adversary. The issue lay in the ownership of the master recordings, the original audio files, from which all copies and releases are derived. These did not belong to Prince, but to the label. This meant that even though he composed, recorded, and performed the music, the ownership rested with someone else. Prince refused to accept that. He believed that if an artist invested their own effort and money to create music, they should own the results. But for Warner Brothers, this was the industry rule of the game that had existed for decades, ensuring long-term revenue even after the artist had moved on. When his request to buy back the masters was denied, Prince reacted with a series of unprecedented moves. He changed his stage name to an unpronounceable symbol, the love symbol, to escape the legal ties associated with the name Prince, and began appearing in public with the word slave written on his face, a public declaration of war. During this period, he accelerated his album releases, not out of a sudden burst of creativity, but to quickly fulfill his contractual obligations and reclaim his freedom. Albums like Come and Chaos and Disorder were not commercial ventures, but acts of rebellion, messages that he would not allow the label to control his products or release schedule. This was a strategy many in the industry called contract burning. The faster, the more, the less dependent, the sooner the artist escapes. Prince didn't stop there. He also sought to disrupt the traditional distribution model. As early as the 2000s, he pioneered direct-to-fan music sales through the NPG Music Club website, bypassing record labels and retailers. He gave away the album Musicology with concert tickets, turning live shows into a massive distribution channel. This not only allowed him to keep all the profits, but also proved one thing: an artist could succeed without relying entirely on the label system. In 2014, Prince returned to Warner Brothers, but this time on entirely different terms. He regained ownership of his original master recordings, a victory that very few artists had ever achieved. However, the label still held global distribution rights, meaning the battle wasn't truly over. Many fans and industry experts believed that Prince's ownership was not just a personal triumph, but a potential threat to the industry's power structure. An artist daring to break the unwritten rules could become an example for others to follow. Many have compared Prince's actions to what Kanye West did years later, publishing his contracts, calling them a form of modern slavery, and urging artists to reclaim control over their music. The difference is, Prince did it 2 decades earlier, when the internet wasn't yet strong enough to amplify artists' voices, and the traditional system still held absolute power. Prince's battle left a deep mark in music history. He proved that artists can not only create, but also take ownership of their creative destiny if they dare to challenge the industry giants. But for those who believe in conspiracy theories, it is precisely this defiance and Prince's success in reclaiming his masters that may have put him in dangerous territory, where powerful interests would not want to see a rule-breaking artist become a role model for an entire generation. And then just 2 years after regaining the masters, Prince passed away suddenly. For many, the connection between these two events cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence. But to understand more deeply, we need to revisit his entire legacy, influence, and the values Prince left behind, those that made him not just a musical monument, but also a symbol of the fight for artistic freedom. Prince lived and created as an artist of absolute freedom, not only conquering the world with his music, but also inspiring future generations about the right to control their own creative destiny. Yet it was precisely that unyielding spirit that brought about conflicts and mysteries that remain unsolved. His death, surrounded by a series of unusual details, is still an open question. We may never fully know the truth, but one thing is certain: Prince's legacy lives on in every note, and his story will continue to be told as a reminder that art is only truly free when the artist owns it. If you want to join us in continuing to uncover the hidden corners of the entertainment world, seeking the truth behind legends, and exploring untold stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any new videos. Leave a comment to share your thoughts on Prince and the theories surrounding him, and share this video so more people can join the discussion. Every interaction from you is the motivation that drives us to keep delivering deep and exclusive content.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.